Good afternoon, everyone. You are welcome to our session, and we are glad you can join us this beautiful Saturday afternoon. Well, for some of us, it's afternoon. For some people, it's evening. And I know in some places, it's still morning. So whether it's morning, noon, or evening, you are all very welcome. Today, we are continuing our conversation on understanding how personality types affect the imposter syndrome. For those of you who are new or who are not very familiar with us, it is Parenting Resources and Initiatives. We're a faith-based non-denominational organization, and we're committed to helping parents fulfill their God-given role of raising well-rounded children. We enable thriving families with excellent parent-child communication in a conducive environment where a child's potentials are maximized. We encourage, support, and provide resources for parents to raise children who will be spiritually, physically, mentally, and emotionally sound. And that's what we do. And we do all this by having seminars. We have virtual seminars. We also have in-person. We talk with people one-on-one. We engage with families. We counsel our youth and young adults. And we also come alongside the parents just to make sure that our parents are fully empowered to do their best job as parents. Of course, if you know me, I always say that parenting is a full-time job. So part of our mission is to help parents, to empower parents to fulfill or to do a good job of that job of parenting. So again, the topic is understanding how personality types impact the imposter syndrome. And again, just in case you're new here, my name is Bola Odetokon, and my co-host who hosted last month is Oriofelo Okere, and she would be chipping in from time to time. So I'm going to show it's this slide that it's a summary of what she looked at last month. It's a brief summary of the top assessment frameworks. I know I can see, but in case you can't see, you can use your mouse to expand enough to fit your screen so you can see clearly. But the major personality frameworks that we talked about last month were the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, the DISC, the Berkeley Emotional Intelligence, the Big Five, the 16 personalities, and the ABC and D personality. And of course, I don't want to read everything word for word here because you can read it for yourself, but it shows the main characteristics of each one. And then I went ahead and added suggestions of ideal professions and careers. So Oriafe covered all this last month. I just wanted to just show it to us as a kind of quick recap, maybe for those who didn't join or in case it's no longer fresh. Of course, you see, for the Myers-Briggs, it says the ideal professions and careers, writer, counselor, INTJ, scientist. So if you've taken any of the tests, you'll be familiar with some of these things because it shows you in the breakdown. Again, I'm not going to cover everything, but feel free to listen to our recording for last month. It's on our YouTube channel. And then, of course, if you have questions or concerns, put it in the chat. Or when it's time, you can raise your hand and ask the question, and you can also send us an email, So that's the brief recap of what was covered last month. So the imposter syndrome, you see this lady looking at herself in the mirror. Is it me? Is it not me? Am I that good or am I not good? So what is the imposter syndrome? It's a psychological pattern that makes people doubt themselves and their accomplishments. You second guess yourself. You think you're not good enough, when people compliment you, you find it difficult to believe that you're the one they're talking about, And it was first noted by these experts called Pauline Clance and Suzanne Imes. I don't know if it's Imes or Imes in a 1978 psychology paper. And it is believed to show up more in educational or professional settings. That's where it is believed. Not that it doesn't show up in other places. It does show up in other places as well, but more so in the educational or professional setting is where it shows up more. So what are the manifestations of the imposter syndrome? Like I said, constant self-doubt and self-shaming. Like you tell somebody that they are beautiful and they can't even say thank you. All they say is, really? Or you tell them that they are wearing something nice and they say, oh, I bought it at the dollar store. Excuse me, who asked you? Nobody asked you where you bought it from. Feeling like a fraud that is about to be exposed after a significant accomplishment. Like, I think it was Maya Angelou that said, oh, I've written 10 books or so. And each time that I write a new book or that people want to read my book or something like that, I still feel like, I'm a fraud that people are going to find out that, it's not real. And you can imagine if somebody as accomplished as Maya Angelou says that about herself, that this syndrome is for real, and because she's such a high achiever. But then, it's just something that people go through. The next thing is feeling unqualified or incompetent for a position or role that is offered. I heard of a lady, she actually shared this in one of the sessions that I was in. She was offered the role of a senior manager or a director. And if you can believe it, I couldn't believe it, except that it was coming from her mouth. She told her superior, who discussed that position with her, that she didn't want it because she didn't think she qualified. Can you imagine somebody doing that to themselves? But it's real. People just think, oh, I'm not good enough. I don't think I have what it takes and all that kind of stuff. It's the imposter syndrome, showing up. And then, like I said, when you're not able to accept compliments, and then minimizing or discounting or dismissing your own accomplishments when you are recognized. Like you introduce somebody and then they come up and say, oh, I wasn't sure that was me that was being recognized or that was being introduced. Excuse me, even if you don't think that way, just keep it to yourself. Don't come out there and say that, oh, and some people think it makes them look humble. It's not. It's really something bad, and it's something that comes from somewhere inside of you that tells you, a voice on the inside of you that tells you that you're unworthy, that you're unqualified, and it shouldn't be so. And that's what we want to look at in a deeper way today. Many of us, like I said earlier, at some point in our lives, we would exhibit some of these symptoms, but polls and research suggest that up to 70% of us experience it, but to continue to live in that zone permanently is what is a problem. And when it's constantly showing up in your life, you really need to pay attention to it and you need to deal with it, So what are the factors that contribute to the imposter syndrome? There are social and environmental factors, as well as other factors that have to do with belonging to certain populations. Under the social and environmental factors, we have lack of support system. When people don't have a good network of support, they can easily succumb to the imposter syndrome. Maybe you don't have people that challenge you, that encourage you. You don't have people that affirm you. You are struggling with low self-esteem, and the voice that you constantly hear is not a supportive voice. You can quickly crumble or succumb to the imposter syndrome. The second point under this is lack of positive reinforcement from family and friends. Of course, it's tied to the first one as well. If in your family, the family where you grew up or your current family, you're constantly made to feel less than, nobody acknowledges you, nobody acknowledges what you bring to the table or what you do, it can make you second guess yourself. It can make you think, does anybody really see me? Like, people can feel unseen, And for some people, it becomes very, very deep and very, very aggravating because they are surrounded by negative, forces, by negative reinforcement rather than positive reinforcement. Another thing is toxic work environment. If you work, and I have been there, so I know what I'm talking about. When you work in a toxic work environment, it can make you doubt yourself. It can make you not step up for promotion. It can make you not bring, like, even when you achieve something, you're asking yourself, was that really me who achieved that, or was it just a stroke of luck? That imposter syndrome voice tells you that, oh, it was a stroke of luck. You can't reproduce that success, and if you start to believe that, it's hard. So you have to be careful about that. And the last thing under that is when you have toxic relationships. If you have ever been in an abusive relationship or you're in one, that can also predispose you to imposter syndrome, because you are not happy, you can be depressed, you can be, you can question yourself, you can suffer from low self-esteem. And those are things that would really, really throw you the bulk of the curveball, for imposter syndrome. The second category is belonging to certain populations. It's been, research has shown that people from a racial minority that belong to a racial group that's in the minority can suffer from this, or they actually suffer from it more than the others. The same thing for gender minority. And when I say gender minority, I'm talking men versus women. Women are supposed to be the minor gender, and research actually shows that more women suffer from imposter syndrome than do men, and that's why you would find out that the research also shows that, like, if you're looking at the job description, if a woman and a man look at the same job description and they are both qualified, if a man qualifies for 60% or 50% of the listing, the requirements for the job, a man will go ahead and apply. And more often than not, they will get a job. But women, we want to wait until we're 100% sure that we have 100% of the requirements. I suffered this when I first got into corporate America. But over the years, as I worked on myself, as I attended seminars and trainings and all of that, I was able to understand that, wait a minute, what the worst that can happen is they won't call me for an interview. And I can tell you that by the grace of God, in the last 8 years, I've gotten jobs that when I applied, I had less than 60%, and I got them, So these things are real. The other thing is low-income families, and that ties also to the racial minority, because you find out that low-income families happen to belong to a racial minority. So they are interrelated. If you come from a low-income family, all the predisposing factors for imposter syndrome are there. And then, of course, certain personality types, the one we are focusing on today. So you want to ask yourself, is there any of these points that I belong to? Do I have support systems? Do I have positive reinforcement? Do I work in a toxic work environment? Do I have toxic relationships? Am I from a racial minority, gender minority, low income? All those things can predispose you. But today we are focusing on personality types. Please feel free to put your questions and comments again in the chat as we go along, and we would answer them as we go along. I took the personalities, the 16 personalities, and it says I'm a protagonist. You have to answer a couple of questions, and it says I'm a protagonist. And the description for protagonists are extroverted, 60%, intuitive, 59%, feeling, 67%, judging, 71%, turbulent, 51%. I found that feeling a bit, I'm not sure that I totally agree with it. I would say maybe I'm 55%, but it says I'm 67%. But of course, it's based on the answers that I provided for the question. And then it says my role is, it will tell you the roles that you will function best in. So it says I'm a diplomat. I don't know about that. And then it says my strategy is social engagement. So the general traits of a protagonist is that they are charismatic and inspiring personality, and they often feel called to serve a greater purpose in life. That I can agree with. They feel a near constant drive to expand, to improve, and to grow, often in the name of serving others. But it's all too easy for protagonists to feel lost when the results that they envision and strive for don't manifest. And then it gives some here. Okay, I'm going to pause here and allow, before I go to the parenthood, if anybody here knows me well enough, tell me if you think you agree with everything here. It says they are the most likely to, one bullet, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Who wants to take a stab or take a shot at me? Let's, whether you believe all these things are correct.
I agree with the general traits a lot. So yeah. I think we should raise our hands. I'm sorry. Yeah, but the general traits, that's you. I agree with that paragraph.
Who is talking, please?
This is Comfort.
Oh, okay. Who else?
This is Oriofe. Good afternoon, everyone. I agree, especially with the paragraph of the need to expand, improve, and grow.
Why are you laughing, Oriofe? Don't make me call you.
I'll share some of mine after.
Okay, who else wants to say something?
So I did take one of the tests, the 16 personalities test, well, the results were not too surprising to me. One of the traits that they said I did have was being introverted, which is accurate, right? I am not an extrovert in any shape or form. And I think another thing that I did find out was being observant, which is very true. I pay close attention to things or people before taking any leap. So, and then being assertive, which I agree with. And then confidence, I think that I also agree with. Another one was feeling. I don't know about that. I'm still trying to weigh what kind of feeling is it. But I think for the most part, I agree with most of the results of the assessment.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am an entertainer. My personality test has been accurate since I was probably 6 months old. I haven't really changed. I hope I've evolved, but I have actually remained the same as I was as a child. Even when I connect with my primary school friends, they're like, "Oh my God, you're the same." But I'm very extroverted. I'm observant. I'm an explorer. But with that, it said my strategy was people mastery, which is pretty nice and I can see how. With an extroverted personality, over the course of life, I've never met a stranger. Like, I meet you and you're my best friend. That's kind of how I am. But over the course of life, I've definitely paused a little and, just kind of read people more, because doing that, there's a good side and a bad side to it. Like, now I feel like I have too many friends. I can't keep up. It's not serving me, all of them. But yeah, I feel somehow stretched on that end in this season of my life. So I can see how now I am more keen on understanding people before like jumping in to friendships or relationships with them. I'm very okay now taking people on as, what's that A word?
Acquaintance.
But yeah. Thank you. I'm like, nobody knows it.
It's acquaintance.
Yes.
And guess what? Guess who keeps reminding me, Oriofe? Guess who keeps reminding me, like you said, that not everybody that I think is my friend is my friend. My daughter, she says, "Mom, no, I don't think they're your friend. I think they're just your acquaintance. Please get to know the difference."
I completely agree. Something I've had to like learn and be okay with in the last few years. And some of the things it says, I enjoy team projects. I'm very good at cheering people on. I'm like, that's so true. My career can be like personal cheerleader. So if you're working on any project and you need someone for real, message me. I got you. And yeah, that's on the negative side. We lack discipline. That's true. And I don't know, I was thinking about it even when, for those of you who were here from last week, I did the presentation on personalities. And something that I was thinking about was, does this mean we should just accept the negatives? Because do you get, because there's the positives and negatives and everybody has that. So how do we kind of balance that? So I guess that's a question I'm throwing out to everybody and to our speaker today. How do we kind of balance those negatives with our positives and not focus too much on fixing how we are?
Thank you so much for sharing. So thank you for sharing. So the types of imposter syndrome, the first one is the perfectionist. And the general consensus by researchers is that the perfectionism and imposter syndrome go hand in hand. If you've taken a test and it categorizes you as the perfectionist, you're actually the worst sufferer, if I can use that word, from the imposter syndrome. And that's because perfectionists set themselves excessively high goals. And when they don't reach the goal, they experience major self-doubt and worry about not measuring up. They are also control freaks. And I know some people here, but we won't go there. I won't name names. They are control freaks. And if they feel like if they want something done right, it can only be done by themselves. Who is beginning to think? So indicators of being a perfectionist are as follows. Have you ever been accused of being a micromanager? Do you have great difficulty delegating? Even when you're able to do so, you feel frustrated and disappointed in the results, no matter what efforts the person that you delegated to put in, just because you are not the one who did it, you never get satisfied, you're never impressed. 3, when you miss the insanely high mark that you set for yourself, do you accuse yourself of not being cut out for your job? And you ruminate on it for days, like I said at the beginning when I was explaining the general, characteristics of imposter syndrome. And then, of course, do you feel like your work must be 100% perfect 100% of the time? Of course, we're not saying you should do wishy-washy job. We're not saying you should cut corners. But there are times that things are not, life is not 100%. So there are times that something would go less than what you expected. You don't kill yourself over it. But for the perfectionists, yes, if it doesn't go 100% perfect 100% of the time, it's a no-no for them, and that's not good. And the next person is the expert, the next, personality that suffer, or the type of imposter syndrome, the expert imposter syndrome. The expert is the person that knows everything, or they want to know everything. And if they don't know it, they're afraid to suggest or give their opinion or take risk. They won't actually put themselves forward for anything. You will never catch them, volunteering for anything that is not in their level of comfort, because they don't want to look stupid. Like some people will say, okay, I don't know much about that, but I'll try. And I can volunteer if you would show me how. Not the expert. The expert is not going to put themselves, they are not going to say, I'll try. It's either they are 100% sure or they won't take a risk because they don't want to look stupid. So indicators: do you spend too much time researching and gathering information before venturing to start a project? And don't get me wrong, you have to do research. Don't go and start a project. Even the Bible says you have to, count the cost before you start something, But then for the expert, they want to wait until they have 100% lined up, have all their ducks lined up in a row before they will start. Some people will say, okay, we have 70% or 80%, we can start and then we continue the research, but for the expert, no, they won't start. And sometimes it can be what you call, it can make people do or suffer what they call analysis paralysis, which means you won't even start, you will never start, because you're waiting until research is complete, you're waiting until information is 100% available. No, that's not how to live. So do you avoid applying for a job? And I said this at the beginning. Do you avoid applying for a job if you don't think you meet 100% of the requirements? That's an indicator that you're the expert, that you have that expert syndrome. Do you avoid speaking up in seminars or meetings like this? Like some of you here, you can lead this by yourself, you can lead this session, but you won't, because you're afraid that you won't be perfect. I'm not perfect. I had to do a lot of research about this. I had to cross this. I even used chat GPT to help me come up and refine some of my stuff. But if you are the experts, imposter syndrome, nobody will catch you doing anything like this because you're afraid that it's not going to be perfect. Please come off your expertness, and leave. Of course, the third one is the soloist. This person tends to do everything on their own. They feel as though asking for help reveals that the fact that they are phony or they're weak. And it's okay to be independent, but not to the extent that you refuse assistance so that you can prove your worth. And that's the problem with the soloists. They want to prove their worth. They think that asking for help means that they are not worth it or they are not qualified, So what are the indicators to tell us that you're a soloist? Do you firmly feel that you need to accomplish things on your own? It's got to be my way or the highway. Another indicator is I don't need anyone's help. I can do it by myself. And the last, well, it's not the last indicator, but at least the last that I wanted to consider, there are other indicators. Do you frame requests in terms of the requirements of the project rather than your needs as a person? So you will find that a soloist saying, instead of saying, I need you to help me do this, the expert, the soloist will say, well, the project needs this, the project needs to do that, and it needs to be done this way. You will never catch them saying, in order for the project to succeed, I need this. Can you help me with this? The soloist doesn't do that because they believe that they are, all in all, they are the master, And then the superwoman or the superman. There are people who are convinced that they are phonies amongst the real deals, like, oh, everybody can be a real deal, but not, not me, and they push themselves. And even though they are really high there, they are categorized as the real deal. But when they get in amongst their real deal colleagues, they kind of, want to still do more, want to still impress people more. And they constantly push themselves to work harder and harder to measure up. Hey, you're already there. Like, I remember my daughter's first semester in college, parents were invited for a seminar on campus. And one of the professors told us, parents, please don't kill your children. The fact that they got into this school, they're already high achievers. So if every now and then they have a B or a B plus, please don't kill them, okay? They're already competing with the best of the best. Don't kill them by, pushing them hard. And that is not to say that we shouldn't strive to do better. But hey, give yourself a break, okay? Give yourself a break. So the second thing is that this is a false cover-up for insecurities, for their insecurities. And the work overload may harm not only their own mental health, but also their relationship with others. I've had to take a step back from some friends who it's constantly work. And I'm like, don't you have a life? Don't you want to have a life? Do something. Who are you trying to impress? We already know you work very hard. Must you do it again? Must you push yourself this way? And it's not a good way to live. The next thing is imposter workaholics are actually addicted to the validation. And that's the problem. They're addicted to the validation that comes from working, not to the work itself. And that's why they are the superwoman, or they want to be perceived as the superwoman or the superman. And they continue going and pushing and pushing and pushing. The unfortunate thing is that there's only so much you can push yourself. You would break. Your mental health will be at stake. Your relationships will be at stake, because people will just step out from you and be like, you know what? If that's how you want to live, that's okay for you. That's not okay for me. And you'll find out why your friends are stepping back from you. It's because the atmosphere you are creating around yourself is not fun. And it rubs off on people that associate with you. What are the indicators? You stay later at the office than the rest of your team, even past the point when you've completed the day's work and you should go home. You don't, because you still want to push. You want to prove that, oh, I'm here longer than everybody else. I'm online longer than everybody else, Do you get stressed when you are not working and you find that downtime is completely wasteful for you? For you, there's no downtime. You just want to go on. Have you let your hobbies and passions fall by the wayside and you have sacrificed them to work? Do you feel like you haven't truly earned your title despite your numerous degrees and achievements? So you feel pressed to work harder and longer than those around you to prove your worth. Again, it comes back to trying to prove your worth, using your work as a validation. There's a joke on my team. We say that some of those people, they send you an email at 6 a.m., they send you an email at 1 a.m. We tell them, get a life. Don't you have a life? And of course, sometimes we actually found that some of them don't have a life. They don't have any other thing other than their work. So they want to send something at 6 a.m. or at 1 a.m. It's okay for them. I just tell them, if that's how you want to work, that's how you want to work. But don't expect me to respond to you at 1 a.m. I'm going to respond when I want to respond. 8 to 5 are my core hours. If I choose to respond outside of that, it's my choice. But you're not going to expect that from me. We shouldn't let our lives be that, so much driven by the need to be validated, the need to prove something to somebody. No, we don't need to prove anything, And the final one is the natural genius. I hope I'm not preaching. I hope you're reflecting as I'm talking and you're thinking to yourself, okay, or maybe you're actually identifying, okay, this is where I belong, and I need to work on myself. So the last one is the natural genius. They believe they need to be a natural genius. They judge their competence-based ease and speed as opposed to their efforts. If it takes a long time to master something, they feel ashamed. They feel shame. They set their internal bar very impossibly high, and they are similar to the perfectionists, but natural geniuses they don't just judge themselves based on ridiculous expectations. They also judge themselves based on getting things right the first try. I had a student who will cry if she doesn't get 100% the first time. She would cry. Even if what she got was 95, 99, she would cry. And I'm like, where is this coming from? You know, is there something else that is going on inside that we are not aware of and that we need to pay attention to? And when they are not able to do something quickly or fluently, their alarm goes off. And the indicators for this person, this natural genius who thinks they shouldn't have to put effort into something, is that, are you used to excelling without much effort? Do you have a track record of getting straight A's or gold stars in everything you do? Were you told frequently as a child that you are the smart one in your family or peer group? Do you dislike the idea of having a mentor because you can handle things on your own? Oh, I don't need anybody to teach me anything. I'm all that, I'm all good, I'm okay, I'll find my way. When you are faced with a setback, does your confidence tumble? Because not performing well provokes a feeling of shame. If you answer yes to one or more of these, you are one of those natural genius people, and you need to take a look at yourself. Don't drive yourself nuts, and don't drive other people nuts. So those are the 5 types of imposter syndrome. There are other lesser types, but most people will fit into these 5 categories. And again, I hope you're thinking and asking yourself, where do I belong? So these are the personality. So I put them in a kind of a tabular, whatever, so that we can quickly reflect based on the assessment tools. So if you use the Myers-Briggs type indicator, it has the INFP, INFJ, INTP, INTJ, INFP, ENFP. And it says these types tend to have high self-criticism and perfectionist tendencies, making them prone to doubting their own abilities. So that's under the MBTI. And then if you did the big 5, it's the neuroticism score. That's the indicator for the imposter syndrome. These are individuals with higher neuroticism scores, and they may experience self-doubt, anxiety, and negative self-evaluation, which contributes to the imposter feelings. For the 16 personalities, if you are classified as an INFP, INFJ, INTP, INTJ, ENFP, you are predisposed to the imposter syndrome. So similar to the MBTI, they exhibit traits such as high self-standards and self-critical tendencies, constantly criticizing themselves, and, like this, diminishing themselves, increasing the likelihood of imposter syndrome. So the Berkeley Emotional Intelligence, if you took the BEI and you are categorized as high self-efficacy and low self-regulation, these are individuals with high self-efficacy. They set unrealistically high expectations for themselves. And while low self-regulations may lead to self-doubt and feelings of inadequacy. And of course, for the type A, B, C, D, the type A person, I'm sure most of us, we have heard about the type A person. They are difficult to work with. They are difficult to marry. If you marry them, you're in trouble. And you have to really understand their personality so that you don't go crazy. There are individuals who I have some of them who are my friends, and one of them is actually on this call with me. There are individuals who have a perfectionist tendencies, they are high achievement orientation, they have a fear of failure, and it can contribute to imposter syndrome. And the bad thing about these things is that if you're not careful, and if the people you are relating with don't know you, you might be suffering. Your relationships might suffer. Your relationships might suffer a whole lot because you rub people. It rubs off on your friends. And sometimes your friends start to wonder whether they are the ones who have a problem and all of that. But hey, it's because of your personality. So how do we overcome and manage the imposter syndrome? How do we recognize and manage, overcome and manage it rather? So number 1 is recognize and acknowledge your achievement, irrespective of what type of imposter syndrome you are. These are general coping mechanisms, And like I said at the beginning, at some point in our lives, we will see this syndrome manifest. But the thing is to constantly work on it, So take time to reflect on your accomplishments and give yourself credit for your hard work and abilities. Nobody likes a slacker, so we are not saying be a slacker, but give yourself credit for what you do well. Acknowledge what you do well. Embrace self-compassion. Treat yourself with kindness and understanding, the same way you would do for a friend, And when you have self-doubt, during those moments, be good to yourself, be kind to yourself, Like the Bible says, love your neighbor as yourself. If you don't love yourself first, you can't love your neighbor. So be kind to yourself. so that you can be kind to others, you know. Challenge the negative self-talk. Identify and challenge negative thoughts and beliefs that contribute to imposter feelings. Replace them with more positive and realistic affirmations. And you have to be intentional about this. There are times that I have scriptures, affirming scriptures written, you know, like in notepads and sticky notes, and I put it in my mirror, on my word board and things like that, especially when I'm going through difficult situations, maybe challenging situations at work. I write those scriptures. The Bible says I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, and all of that. The Bible says I am the apple of God's eyes. Nothing touches me because I'm hidden with Christ and God. I write out those little things, and it may not even just be scriptures, maybe positive quotes from other people that you, maybe your mentors or people that you follow. Write them up. Be intentional about replacing the negative self-talk in your head with those things. And don't make them just things. Speak them out loud. Those positive things, speak them out loud. You know, speak them. Let yourself hear it. Hear yourself speaking good things to yourself, you know. So the self-talk, the negative self-talk may be going on in your mind, but make sure that your own voice, your own positive voice is louder than that negative self-talk. The next one, normalize failure and setback. There's failing is not the end of the world. Setbacks are a part of life. So reframe failures as opportunities for growth and resilience. You failed on something, yes, pick up yourself, dust yourself up and try again. Like we all say, Albert Einstein did this many times before he succeeded. Abraham Lincoln did this many times before he succeeded, and all of that and all of that. We quote all of these other people. What about you? You can extend that same grace to yourself. If you fail, so what? You have only learned one way not to do it. So find another way, find a way to do it, you know. Let's normalize failure and setbacks. Let's not make it look like failing at something means that your entire life has failed. Failing at one thing doesn't mean you're a failure. It means that you just have to learn another way to succeed at doing that thing. So let's normalize failure for ourselves and for our children. Seek support, reach out to friends, you know, who can help you, who can provide encouragement, who can get another perspective from, you know, different from where you sit, you know. Focus on learning and growth. I think I mentioned this before. Shift your mindset from perfection to continuous learning and improvement. Emphasize the process and progress made rather than just outcomes. Yes, the outcome may not be what you expected, but in the journey, you've learned something. You're growing, you're improving. I hope you are. So don't look at, oh, okay, I put in all so much and it failed, and that's it. Look at, okay, what did I learn in the process? What can I do better? What are the learning, the lessons learned from this that I can take to my next venture or my next adventure, you know? Focus on learning and growth. Set realistic expectations for yourself. Be mindful of setting realistic and attainable goals. You know, like people say, break it into smaller goals. If you have a big goal of making $1 million this year, okay, break it into, okay, I have to make maybe 100 per month. I have to make 100,000 per month, you know, and then if 1 month you don't make 100,000 that month, don't kill yourself. Just know that in the next 1 month or in the next 2 months, you have to, you know, like make up that difference, you know. And of course, please don't compare your progress to others. Everyone has their own unique journey. Your journey is unique to you, and nobody can, you know, it will be unfair to yourself to compare yourself with another person. And of course, this is my favorite. It's celebrate small victories. It's my favorite of all the tips to manage. Celebrate small victories. Acknowledge and celebrate even the smallest successes along the way. Celebrating milestones can boost your confidence and reinforce your abilities. If you have, maybe you set a goal at the beginning of the year that you wanted to lose 30 pounds before June, and you have only lost 15 pounds. Celebrate the fact that you have at least lost something. Some people haven't lost anything this year. They've added more than they wanted to, you know? So celebrate the small victories, celebrate small successes, milestones, recognize, have your good friend, your close friend go with you to get something, get a bite, treat yourself to something, you know? Do not discount your small successes. They all add up, they all add up. And subsequently, this helps to build your confidence because you can tell yourself that if I did this, you know, I can do more. Whatever it is that is in me that enable me to achieve this small success, I can expand on that and have even a higher measure of success. So let's celebrate small victories. And lastly, we have given tips and all of that. If you find out that the imposter syndrome is significantly impacting your well-being and daily function, you are constantly down, you are constantly sabotaging yourself, you are constantly second-guessing yourself, you are putting yourself down, it may be time to reach out to a therapist and counselor who can provide guidance and support, because sometimes there might be deeper things from the past, things from relationships, baggage that we've carried around that have almost become part of us, and we have never admitted them or acknowledged them to ourselves. And those things, every time you try to get out of the pit, those things throw you right back in the pit. They throw you right back there. They tell you that you can never make it. They tell you you can never do good. They tell you that what you're doing, it will never be enough. If you're constantly suffering, if you're constantly hearing those voices, please speak to a therapist. We are not therapists here. We're not counselors. We just share what we have learned in our own journey and what we have learned, by studying, by attending sessions. But again, I cannot stress this more than enough. If you're constantly hearing these negative voices and you're constantly second-guessing yourself, putting yourself down or putting other people down, please get help. And you might ask me, so what is the point of all this? What is the point of all this? And the point is, what you don't know can hurt you, and it can hurt you big time. If you don't know who you are and you don't understand the things, the way you are coming off at people or coming off on people, it can hurt you, because then you find out that your relationships don't last. You find out that you might lose a job quickly, because you are throwing negative vibes at people. You are throwing negative vibes at your teammates, and all of that kind of stuff. And knowing your natural disposition can help you understand why you do certain things or why you behave in certain ways. It's important. What you do and how you do them can impact your relationships, your business, your career, etc. I've said that. It can also help you understand other people and their dispositions. Like, I think we said this at the beginning. If you understand yourself and you show grace to yourself, you can also show grace to other people, So seek to understand yourself, seek to understand other people as well. And you can make changes as you gain understanding. Like when we started, I said, I didn't think 5 years ago, I would not categorize myself as a diplomat. But as I started to look at these things and saw the parts that I did not like, I started to make changes. I started to give people grace as I give myself grace. And today, the 16 personalities test or assessment will categorize me as a diplomat. I'm sure if I took that test 5 years ago, or when I took it last 5 years ago, I wasn't a diplomat, but we learn, we grow, So, and what is the meaning of all of this for us as parents? Part of PRI's mission is to enable parents, to empower parents. We want you to be in a good place for yourself so that you can be in a good place for your family, for your children. You can't be carrying a baggage of all this, negative voices, negative vibes and all of that, and be the parent, the best parent that you can be. You can only be the best parent that you should be, that you ought to be, when you're good with yourself, when you're getting good vibes and you're sending out good vibes to yourself and to your surroundings in your home. If you are dealing with all these negative emotions, there's no way it will not affect your child. There are children that suffer because this is what their parents are going through. Their parents are constantly, second-guessing themselves. They don't acknowledge small successes. They don't acknowledge milestones. They don't celebrate. They're constantly negative. So the negativity rubs off on the child. You're shutting a child down at home. That child goes into the school system not having the strength or the courage to speak up because they're afraid that they are going to get shut down, like they get shut down at home. If you're the one that dismisses all of the achievements, I heard one child tell me that if I don't have 100%, my mommy will kill me. Excuse you? And she really truly believed that her mother would kill her. I had to tell her mother, please stop saying that you will kill her. You might say, oh, it's a joke. But it's not a joke. That child is going out there thinking that. thinking that they're going to, my mother is going to kill me or my father is going to kill me. So please, let's not do that to our children. Let's not do that to ourselves.
Good afternoon. My question basically is, I know it's a thin line between, I don't want to say perfectionist or it's not like soloist now, but I think one of the imposter syndromes and pushing a child to do better. So I just want you to address that because, like, as a parent, we all know the strengths of each of our children. If you know you have a child that is made for more, or that you know that can do more, but is always just like, oh, I just want to do the little, let me just quickly do my work, rush straight and get out of it. And you just want to say, okay, no, I need you to sit down and do this very well. How do you balance that where you don't become, oh, you're always pushing or you're always making them feel like, oh, I have to do more, but you're trying to like support and encourage them to say that you are made for more and you can actually do more?
Okay, thank you for the question. So first thing, I'll go back to what I said was my favorite tip for managing imposter syndrome. That's celebrate victories, celebrate small successes, celebrate small achievements. I hope you're constantly affirming that child and letting them know that you are proud of them, you're proud of what they're doing, you're proud of the effort they're putting in. And then you can work with them on setting goals. When my kids were much younger, what we used to do at the beginning of each year is we set goals. We set educational goals. We set other kinds of goals. Maybe there's a subject that they've struggled with the previous year or that they didn't hit the goal. We talk about it. What do you think you need to do? Or do you think you can do this? Do you think you can do that? Yes, knowing that your child can do better, you can push them. But again, I'm coming back to the place of your child, you understand them. It's not just that you are comparing them to what's this family that we all use? The Joneses. Don't compare them to the Joneses' child. It's because you have assessed your own child and you know that he can do better. You can do that and sit down with them and say, okay, you scored 90, but you can score more, especially based on you're looking at you're not just picking a grade, you're looking at, okay, for that course where they scored 90, what did they miss? Maybe they didn't submit something on time and they lost some points. You have to dig through what it is. So that comes to understanding your child and also understanding why they are slacking in something. You have to identify it. It cannot be in the vacuum. So your push to do better has to be based on facts, has to be based on a true understanding of that child's abilities, not comparative ability. Not the fact that you're comparing them to one other child or you're comparing them to another child, a friend's child. It has to be based solely on your correct understanding and interpretation of that child's abilities. And then your role is to continue to encourage, to support, help them set small goals. And then one last thing that I'll add is create an incentive system. I create incentive systems. Okay, we were at B+. If we're able to get this to A, this is what you would get. And this is what would happen and all of that. And when you do that, you make that promise, you fulfill it. And it doesn't have to be big things. It can be little things like, oh, take them to their favorite store or go watch the favorite movie, or maybe they've always wanted to hang out with two of their friends. You'll say, okay, I'll take you and so person out to watch that movie that you've always wanted, or something like that. So make it, break it into small goals for them. Create an incentive system because we call it positive reinforcement, and so that you are tying it to something, not just out of vacuum. There's nothing that you're pointing at or they are pointing towards. I hope I answered your question.
Can I add something to that too?
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Okay. So in addition to everything you said, which worked for me, I found that also making an appointment to talk to my child's teacher on any subject that the child has been struggling with also helps to give me more insights. Most of the times they confirm what I already know, but they give me more insight. But it helps me to connect with them to make sure that they help the child do better, perform better. And you'd be surprised that a lot of times teachers tell me parents don't care, and they're very happy that I came forward. So that's something else you can add as well to your list of tips.
Thank you so much, Comfort. And it's true. Teachers like it when parents ask questions, because they want to be sure that what they are doing in school is being reinforced by you at home. Thank you for that. Oriofe, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I was talking to one of my cousins. She's a junior in college, and I think her mom had mentioned to me that her GPA was, I can't remember, but it was in the low threes, which was a bit surprising because she was what you would call a smart kid through elementary and through high school. So I was talking to her about it, and she had a big blowout, just frustrated at people telling her, or her parent, her mom telling her you can do it and all of this. She felt as though she was not provided with any support. It was just a thing of, you are smart, you can do it. But she's like, give me extra tutoring if I needed it, or really any additional help academically. She said and she just was, and my cousin is very introverted. I was very surprised that she was even sharing that much, but it was very pent up, as I came to understand. But it was like from elementary school, she complained of having to do her homework herself, even though she was able to. She just didn't like that was her reality, and her other classmates were being helped and things like that. So even when we do have smart children, that does not relieve the responsibilities in the terms of involvement. So for her, she's a smart kid, but she kind of just got to a point of, I don't care to perform my best because I just don't care anymore, because she wasn't feeling supported from home.
That's absolutely true. We have to constantly support our children and let them know that they have our support. Let them understand it, that it's not a one-off thing, that you would always be there for them. And if it's something that you can't handle, that you will get help for them. I remember my son telling somebody, it was a friend of mine, and she was like, oh, Bola, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of your son. I don't know what my son got into a conversation with her about. And he said something about, oh, there's hardly anything that I can't, that any help that I need that my mom can't get for me in Atlanta. And if she doesn't know, she knows people who knows people. And I'm like, huh? So she said she was reaching out to me because she had a conversation with me, and that was what my son said about me. I said, oh, I feel good, But that's to tell you that, okay, you don't have all the answers, but at least your children know that if if they need help, you would get them the help that they need. And all the help doesn't have to come from you, like Oriofe said, and like Comfort said, reach out to professionals that can help you help your child. I think that's something, that we all should always remember as parents. So that concludes today's discussion. Follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. Yes, and you can watch previous episodes on YouTube. Please watch our YouTube channel, subscribe, share. There's a lot of materials that is useful for parents and even for us as professionals. Part of what we're doing this year is building us, or building parents, or professionally helping us rebrand and repackage ourselves so that we can succeed. And the better we are as parents, as professionals, the better we are able to help our children. That's what we believe. Of course, we look forward to seeing you in July. We are hoping to have a get-together in July. For those of you who are in Atlanta, we're hoping to have a get-together where we meet, have some refreshments. We're going to sample how many people are interested, and then it will be somewhere, maybe somewhere in Gwinnett County. It will be free. We'll pick up the tab, but we just want you to come hang out and get to see all these other faces behind the black boxes. We see all these black boxes every month. We want to see the people behind the black boxes. You want to see parents who are going through what you're going through. You want to rub minds with other parents. It's going to be towards the end of July. If you keep following us, we will put information on our social media pages as to where and when. So I want to thank you for joining to this program. Again, let me put the disclaimer: we are not therapists, we are not counselors, we are just human beings and parents like you. We're researching what works for us, what psychologists and social workers and clinicians have said, and we're hoping that you will learn from those things. And please, if you need help, seek the help. And if you need help trying to identify a trusted therapist and counselor, please feel free to send me an email or text me. My number is 678-468-2891, or email me or private message me on any of our social media platforms, and we would reach out to you. It's always our pleasure to come alongside parents to help, raise the next generation. Our focus is on raising the next generation, but we know that we have to help help one another, empower one another, so that we can do the best that we ought to do and be the best that we need to be. Thank you again for joining us. We appreciate you spending time with us. We look forward to having you at our next event. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. We love you all. Bye for now.